The union's position on the bathroom break issue is that it's a human right and not a contractual one. We're being told to make it a contractual one and put it as a provision in negotiations. And I disagree with that. It is a human right, and it shouldn't be reduced to someone giving us permission as a provision put in a contract so that, people can go. We have a right to go on our own. You can't tell a baby when and when not to urinate or defecate. You shouldn't be able to do the same thing to a full-grown human being. And our position is that this is a human right and not a contractual one. The Connecticut ATUs in a collaborated effort had enough. We've been listening to each other's woes for too many years. And when we go to conferences, we find out that this isn't just a problem in the state of Connecticut. This is a problem nationwide. So we formed a Connecticut Legislative Committee. It's called the ATU Legislative Committee. And to combat a few issues that affect operators. And one of the biggest ones was the bathroom break issue. And in your recent or your former interview, when you were talking to Mr. McKinley Sanford, he was expounding on the fact that there's no time on the runs, and that drivers have to in order to get something to drink, some nourishment, or partake in anything of either water or just a donut, have to try to do them in conjunction with one another. And because of that, they experience disciplinary action against them. The employer will say, well, he called in a bathroom break, but he came back with a cup of coffee. Well, the schedules are tight. He or she doesn't know when they'll be able to do this again. So on the way back, why not? Why not grab something before I get back on the bus? Because now I'm behind schedule because I took this bathroom break. Lord knows when I'm going to be able to. And what we try to explain to the employers is we have young people working, and we have an older fleet working of people. And a lot of them have underlying medical conditions. Some of them are diabetic. That requires them to drink something throughout the day or eat something outside. And we managed to get the company to relax on certain disciplines. Like, for instance, they were writing up drivers for driving and drinking and driving and drinking and eating. And so what we managed to get them to relax on is, well, what if they stop at a stoplight or a stop sign? Would you allow them to do it then? And so they said, you know what, we would allow that. So we tried to educate the drivers, and when you stop at a stoplight, you got a piece of sandwich on the side or you have a drink, that's when you do it, because you're not in operation. And when you stop at a stop sign, you want to take a quick swig of something, that's when you do it. And the drivers have been doing that, and that has been keeping down a lot of the disciplinary action. But still, when it comes to them going into a facility, if they come out with something to drink or eat, they're going to be disciplined for it, because the general public just doesn't understand how difficult this issue is for us, that when we take that opportunity to get those things, they look at it as, I have somewhere to go, I want to go home, or I got to go to work, you shouldn't be doing this, and then they file complaints. They just don't understand that this may be the only time I get to do this. And I don't think they're insensitive. It's just a matter of them not knowing the underlying story. The company's philosophy is the wheels on the bus must go round and round. And they're more concerned of the civil rights of the riders that are on the bus instead of the civil rights of their own employees and operators. And that's where the disconnect is. And it's a shame, because they're human beings too. What I can say about these operators is these operators put people first. They will forego a bathroom break just because they know they got to get that person downtown because they have to catch a train or connect to another bus. And they will forego a bathroom break. They will hold their urine. We've had drivers who've had that have fallen to medical situations. And when I mean fallen, literally pass away. And that was a contributing factor, because they either had kidney issues or issues that related to not being able to relieve themselves properly, which can cause a serious medical condition. And these drivers think of these people, they think of the riders first. When you talk to a lot of these drivers, they'll say, well, you know, my people come first, or I just wanted to make sure I got them from point A to point B as soon as I could. And that sometimes means that they're going to forego a bathroom break. If the general public knew that, I think they'd be more sympathetic to their, and I tell the drivers all the time, make the riders know your plight. Share your stories with them, because they're your biggest advocates. Because the companies don't generally listen to the drivers. They don't care about the driver's input. But the riders can tell them something all day long and they'll make changes because the rider said it. And so what the union's been trying to do is get our membership, the operators, to talk to the general public and let them know their plight, let them know the struggle that exists in terms of being able to relieve oneself. Fatigue is one of the biggest culprits. People don't understand. Some people don't understand that fatigue is attributed to not being able to eat and drink sometimes. Relieve yourself, stretch. And if these drivers had more time on these runs to do these things at the end of the line, the company feels like, okay, there's a main hub that they come to generally to pick up the masses. But what they're not thinking about is when they go in the opposite direction, where do these people, the time at the end of the line that they call recovery time isn't long enough to just stretch, to get outside and drink something, eat something, stretch, just to clear your head and then get back on the bus. We're asking for 15 minutes on each side. If we had just 15 minutes on each side this week, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But they won't do it because why? All they care about, it seems, is that the bus, those wheels on the bus go round and round, and that machine is constantly fed dollars and coins, not at the pleasure of the driver, but at the pleasure of the masses who take the bus. They need to get from point A to point B, but they'll tell you safety is paramount. How is safety paramount, and how does safety first when you're putting a driver in a situation that causes hunger, fatigue, and stress? How? If it's such a paramount issue, how can you say that? You're contradicting yourself. The schedules contradict that safety issue. They just do. And if we argued, there was one time we tried to bring in breaks like they have in New York City, like the other interviewee said, in New York, they get relieved by a driver who comes on and does an hour or 45 minutes. Now you get to do whatever you got to do, and then that driver comes back around, and by the time he comes back around, that hour or 45 minutes is over. So when we tried to propose that, they said, well, okay, we're fine with that, but the drivers, to make it unpopular, they say, but they're going to have to work an extra hour, because if we're going to provide the hour, it's going to be an unpaid break. And now they're going to have to work an extra hour, which means they're going to be working 9 and 11-hour shifts instead of 8 and 10-hour shifts, 8-hour shifts. And that was just a deterrent to get the drivers to say, oh no, I'm not staying an extra hour. But it's a beautiful thing. I mean, even if so what? We have to forego. I mean, we have to another hour is tacked on. I told them, at least let's do it. How about we do it on a trial basis? See if it works. Do it for 6 months. Do it for 1 year and see if it works. If it doesn't work and the drivers don't like it, then okay. But the 15-minute issue is the biggest thing. If you could put 15 minutes on each end, we wouldn't be having this conversation and everybody would be happy. But I think that's that's been attracting these transit systems to autonomous buses, because we'll never have this problem again. You know, a bus that operates on its own without an operator. Now he doesn't have to worry about eating, drinking, or going to the bathroom. This is what attracts them, because, man, wouldn't that be a perfect world? We wouldn't have to worry about disciplining this guy. We wouldn't have to worry about if the bus is on time or not. It's going, and it is what it is. And, there's a lot of contributing, when you look at the schedule and how tight they are, they'll tell you, oh, no, the way we do them, we have the operator in mind. No, you don't, because they're using Google Maps to map these schedules, and they're not using real time, because you pick up wheelchairs, there's traffic, there's school buses, there's all kinds of contributing factors that hinder that schedule. Google Maps doesn't share that. It only shows you the route. So when you start sketching that out or scheduling that out, and you're thinking that you're touching on all the bases, no. What the union tries to tell them to do is put somebody on a bus in real time and have them develop the schedule based on real time, not Google Maps. And this is what they do. They use a template, and they use a program or app to put together the schedules. And this is a person who's doing it in the leisure of their office, being able to just look at it on Google Maps and then pause it when he needs to go to the bathroom. And it's unfortunate.
So you mentioned that this is sort of a nationwide issue. Are there any sort of stories from other states that were particularly?
Yes, more horror stories of drivers actually defecating and urinating on themselves. Drivers actually wearing adult diapers, not because they have a medical situation or a medical problem, because just in case. Could you imagine? When I found that out, that one of our drivers here in Bridgeport, the Greater Bridgeport Transit, actually had this type of incident at Trumbull Shopping Park, because it's so far to walk from the bus into the mall, and once you get in the mall, it's another half a football field to get to the restrooms. And this poor operator not only urinated on themselves, but defecated on themselves while they were trying to get to the bathroom. And that had to be the most embarrassing thing for that driver, because now this driver had to call dispatch, let them know that they couldn't proceed and that they needed a supervisor to come and relieve them, bring another driver up to take their bus. And now this person had to clean themselves in the bathroom the best way they could. That had to be a very degrading and situation for them, in terms of being, a grown, a human being first and foremost, but being an adult, and then having the embarrassment of having, what happened to them. You can smell it. And now this person, as a precaution to this day, wears an adult diaper. That incensed me. So when we did this on the 27th of July was our first rally in Hartford. We all wore Depends diapers over our clothes to bring the message home. And we looked ridiculous, but it was worthwhile, because this is what people are literally wearing under their clothing. And then when we go to these conferences, we find out that this is more prevalent than what we thought. That there's people doing this under normal circumstances daily that have no underlying medical condition to do so. It's just as a precaution. Wow. When you think about that, it's mind-blowing that someone who, because they feel hopeless, because there's nothing being done to deal with the scheduling issue, I'll do this as a precaution. And I'll keep a couple in my bag just in case. Unbelievable. And from what I understand, I know there's one of our operators that have it, and it's a female, and she came out and said it. She wasn't willing to be interviewed because it's embarrassing, but she told me, and it almost brought tears to my eyes. But then I found out there's other operators that do it as a precaution as well. At least 4 of them here. At least 4 of them here out of 112 drivers. 4 of them are doing this openly that people know about. And it's a shame. And so the union could not idly stand back and say, hey, we just got together as a collective body, the Connecticut ATUs, and said, listen, enough is enough. We're going to take this issue up, and we're going to bring attention to this, and we're going to stop it once and for all, whatever it takes. And we're not going to stop. This issue is not going to die until it's rectified. When taking any type of public transportation, should look at the humility side, the humanity side of the issue, and have a little and show a little compassion. Because you know what, and I don't blame them, because who knew? Who knows? How do I know this gentleman over here doesn't get to go to the bathroom? But once they're made aware of this situation, there will be compassion for this. And I just think that awareness should be brought not only to the operators who are driving these buses, that they don't have to put up with this, but also the awareness of the general public to let them know this is going on. And this should be a concern of theirs, because it's a safety issue. If I'm driving and I need to go to the bathroom, then I'm driving under duress. And that's fatigue. And duress and fatigue equal an unsafe situation that can lead to something possibly catastrophic. And I think that awareness should be brought to the general public that this is how human beings are being treated. And there is no reason for it. There's just no reason for it. And there was no reason or rhyme. And these companies cannot explain with a good explanation why. I hear them say it all the time. I hear different ones of them. Well, you know, we're addressing this and we're trying to do what we can for this, and we're working on those schedules right now. That's always the answer, but it's a lie. They're not doing anything. They tell them, yeah, look at it. Is there any room we can put on for that run? And they'll say, well, this run already has 12 minutes at the end. But you're not factoring in the traffic, the potential wheelchairs they may pick up, the school buses that stop and go. There's so many contributing factors, and they're not being factored in because Google Maps doesn't give you that. And I think that if the general public was aware of this, then they would be our biggest component to telling these transit operations that, listen, you guys got to do better than this. You guys got to allow these people to use the bathroom, because our safety is at risk.